valuable electronic parts containing platinum are being stolen from shipments made by Stanwide Mining Equipment Company's cargo planes. And Frank and Joe Hardy are called upon to assist their world-renowned detective father solve the baffling case. At Stanwide, the boys pose as employees and become suspicious of their boss's hostility toward them. Is he involved in the racket? And what is the truth behind the plane crash at sea in which Clint Hill, chief pilot for Stanwide, was killed? Frank and Joe launch an aerial search for clues to the Platinum Thieves' hideout, believing that they will also uncover the mystery behind Hill's accident. The puzzling trail of clues leads the young sleuths to an uninhabited Caribbean island near the scene of the plane crash, then to a mountaintop in Montana and a danger-filled showdown with a band of thieves. But the final discovery and most startling and exciting revelation of all is made in the boys' hometown of Bayport. Franklin W. Dixon fans will find suspense, action, and many breathtaking flying episodes in this thrilling story.
That's going to be a terrible mystery.
The mystery of the tapeworm.
The mystery of Chet's tapeworm.
Oh, that's going to be fucking awesome. And then they shrink themselves down and they go into his
So
belly.
it's a fantastic voyage?
Yeah.
Oh
and they
God.
fight the tapeworm.
It's 2017 and everyone gets a podcast. Mine is the Hardy Boys Drink Book. Each episode, I sit down with creative and hilarious people to talk about a book in the Hardy Boys Mystery Series. Then, we have one of our favorite bartenders mix us up a custom cocktail to drink while we read. It really helps with all the logical inconsistencies. Today, I'm joined by playwright Josh Hartwell, and our drink was created by Tracy Ann Hickman and William Joseph Chapman III at Racine's. Get a job, survive a tornado, and take the shortest Caribbean vacation ever in The Great Airport Mystery.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I am here with Josh Hartwell, playwright, director. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh yeah, I thought you. Yeah, I'm here and I'm happy to be.
Good. I'm glad that you're here. Was that a non-intro for you?
Sure. No, that's great.
That's right. We'll find we'll find our footing as we go. So, Josh, you always have 1,000 things that you're working on. What are you working on right now?
I'm working on about 1,000 things right now, and one of them is I am readapting Christmas Carol. I had adapted it for puppets and masks, and now the Miner's Alley doesn't want the puppets and masks.
What?
So I am readapting it for actors who will play non-puppet and mask. Puppets and masks are
Christmas Carol with no puppets. That's weird.
I mean, or Muppets. It's just
Or
people.
Muppets.
It's just people
Just
talking,
people.
like meat sticks talking at you.
It should be an interesting take on the project, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, Christmas time is a good time to do that show.
We're doing it around Christmas time.
That's great.
We're also doing Resolutions at a different theater, which is a play that I wrote, and that's about New Year's Eve, and people get hurt.
Well, I really like a Christmas time play that's not about Christmas. I think we have enough Christmas plays.
True, that was the goal, and so I'll have two things running simultaneously during the holidays, and I'm in one of them.
Okay, that's awesome. And our mutual friend Missy Moore is directing Resolutions,
She's
right?
directing Resolutions, yeah.
Great. Missy, I want you on the show. Call me. Be on the show.
I'm sure she's listening.
Yes, I'm sure she's listening later at a future date. All right, well, I am excited to jump into this story because it is bonkers. Josh, you say you haven't read a Hardy Boys book before?
This is this book popped my Hardy Boys cherry.
That's horrible. What were your first impressions of the book? Especially as from a writer's perspective, I'm interested.
God. Well, hold on to that.
Okay.
But my first impression was, because I didn't even know the Hardy... There was this Hardy Boys TV show that was in syndication like in the 70s or something.
Right, the feathered hair Hardy Boys.
The Moppet. But they were like in their 20s or something.
Yeah.
Like close to 30. I don't know. They seemed really old when I was a kid. But these guys, I learned very early on that they are 17 and 18. And then I look at the picture on the front cover and I'm like, that artist doesn't know how to draw 17 or 18-year-olds because those kids are clearly 14 and 13.
Right. And they don't act like any... They're this weird combination of like 9-year-olds and like grizzled war veterans.
But nobody in this book acts like actual people at all.
No one acts like a person.
Which is writing lesson number 1 for the dude who wrote it.
How would a human...
Dixon.
Yeah, F.W. Dixon. Actually, that's a good point as any to talk a little bit about the history of the Hardy Boys books. The Hardy Boys mystery series were written by Franklin W. Dixon, who is better known as the inventor of the Dixon bird call, in the 1920s, and they were heavily rewritten in the 1950s to make the books more PC, to cut about 100 pages from each book.
Thank God.
A little less racist in some of them. They really went out of their way to update the books to the 1950s. And, I mean, you can tell that they have all of the most up-to-date crime-fighting techniques, like pockets full of scraps of paper.
An envelope that he could put the scraps of paper into, and they know how to. And well, I mean, it's not even just the things that they happen to have on them.
Right,
Always
always handy.
It's just the skills that comes
Yes.
with each Hardy Boy.
They're really talented and strapping young lads.
They are strapping, and I noticed it didn't really do anything for me. But in that picture of them jumping from the hand grenade, it does look a little like they're about to fuck each other.
We're finding the picture right now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It looks like
it's
I think that's
a little
Joe.
sodomy, a little sodomy-ish.
Joe is lying prone, and Frank is leaping onto him.
He's like, it's a hand grenade. Jump! Oh man, I'm sorry. I landed. It wasn't a hand grenade, but man,
This joke again, Frank.
yeah.
It's the third hand grenade this week. But those boys are taught to just duck and cover. So
I guess that's
Safe.
what you are when you're a teenage sleuth.
yes, they're sleuthing. So okay, I'm gonna jump right into the story. The book starts with the boys driving home. They're just late, right?
Yeah, it's laid out, and
They're in their convertible. They make that very clear that they're driving a convertible.
yeah, and so am I just taking it?
Yeah, just
Okay.
go whenever you want.
And then there's a barricade, and
Right.
they decide to move the barricade so that they can take this. I think it's a shortcut or just a
Yeah.
different way home. And then
Which I'm gonna stop right there.
Yeah.
If you're driving and you see somebody's blocked off a road with a barricade, the first thought through your head shouldn't be, "Oh, well, let's move that barricade
but
and
they
drive
put it
down
back,
it."
which is
That's-
so Hardy Boy.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
right. Very
They're like, it's a
responsible.
barricade for them. It's
But
it's really not for us. We know our shit, man.
Yeah,
We-
exactly.
I mean, we know how to get around barricades, but the layman may not. So let's put it back, just
Put it
so
back.
they're safe.
Right.
And then they get hit by a fucking plane,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's like maybe you guys shouldn't have moved the barricade.
Right. Maybe this road is a plain road. Yeah. So they're driving along and they hear rifle shots and they're like, "Is someone shooting at us?" Which I wouldn't immediately assume, but the Hardy Boys, of course, they're like, "Someone is
People are
shooting."
always shooting at them,
Right.
Except for throughout the rest of the book when everyone has a gun and no one ever actually aims it at them.
Yeah, they just threaten them, finger the muzzle of it, which I thought was really weird. But yeah, after they hear the rifle shots, this plane comes down very north by northwest. They're like, "Oh God, it's going to crash into us." The tire of it hits the roof of their convertible.
Right. And
Did
then,
you get that? Like, did
I
they
th-
put the hood up, the top up at any point?
Yeah,
Maybe-
they said it was a convertible, but then it hit the top of it,
And
so it
turned
was
it
just
over.
a convertible. It just wasn't converted. It's
Right.
They didn't say that. But I had to look at the picture to glean that.
It's not a convertible. But yeah, the
But
plane.
thank God the hood. I mean, they would have.
They would've
Joe
just-
would have been decapitated
just
by
dead.
that wheel.
Yeah, thank God. It happens a lot in this that you're like, "Oh, well, thank God."
Jesus.
But yeah, so the plane sort of skims, that's crashing, sort of skims the roof of the car, and the car turns onto its side.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys scramble out of it looking for like the wreckage of the plane crash, but there isn't any. And there's this old man
Yeah.
who's like deaf or something.
Well,
he
for
pretends
a while, for like one scene, he is.
Yeah, he's deaf. And then later he gets his
He's all
hearing
right.
back.
It
But
becomes
this-
irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite thing about this is that once that guy like scares them off and they're like, "We should get out of here," they just rock the car until they
They use the big sticks and
Yeah.
they put it back on its
On its
side,
tires.
on its front. Not its front.
I
but
feel like the engine would be flooded, the tires would have popped.
you know
but,
what? I
like,
don't know shit about cars.
Neither do I. And that's from someone who knows. One of my favorite moments growing up, my car was broken and we opened the hood of it. My dad stared at it. And after a second, he went, "Might as well be a human heart." And just slammed the car. And I was like, that's the family I come from. Not a big
but
car
you're
fan.
not a Hardy Boy.
No, that's right.
They
They know.
They knew. They could like sense that the car was probably okay if it just kept
The
upright.
frame wasn't bent or
They
whatever.
had them some dings.
Yeah.
They're fine.
So they go home. They tell their parents about it. And everyone has this very like jolly attitude about it. That like
Well, the dad, I'm gonna say,
Fenton, yeah.
he's got some big issues.
Yes.
I wish that they would have, like you were saying, that they made it more PC. I wish they would have not kept it so PC because I think the dad's a little bit drunk the whole time.
Oh yeah, and Laura Hardy is clearly taking some pills to like she's constantly like slightly apprehensive. She's
But
like,
Gertrude is like, "What is wrong with you people? Just
Yeah.
sending your kids on the."
that's far too dangerous.
And
they're
the dad
like,
doesn't
well,
do shit. I know
No.
the dad is not was never a real detective, and because his answer to everything is like, I got some stuff
I got called out of
Why don't
town.
you guys go? Why don't
See,
you guys go do that?
My fan theory is that Fenton Hardy is actually like running a massive criminal racket and uses his boys either to take out his competition or just to run interference. Because he always he seems to have information he shouldn't have about the criminals. And he's like,
Well, I mean,
not particularly in this one, but sometimes he can send off fingerprints and then 5 hours later be like, we got the results of the fingerprints.
yeah, but everybody knows, as soon as Dixon introduces each character who ends up being a villain, you're like, oh god, that guy's gonna be a villain.
Because he names them
He's like,
villain
this
names.
guy's a dick.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then so this guy shows up and he's really nervous and he's sweating a lot as he introduces himself and he's kind of a jerk to the kids. I'm like, well, if he's not the villain, then that's really cool because
Right. It's a head
and then
trip.
he is.
I keep hoping that somebody's going to be a jerk to the kids and it's going to turn out that they were like the good guy.
yeah,
But
didn't
it
happen.
does.
Is
Not
it
in
just
this
this
one.
book?
No books.
Oh.
There's not a lot of surprises.
So here's my theory about Dixon.
Okay.
Aside from the invention of the bird call,
Right.
the Dixon bird call, which I think is the best bird call.
Sure.
I mean, when I used to go hunting, that was what always caught me the birds,
Most birds.
the things that
Yeah.
I was the birds.
Yeah, helped you beg the grouse
the
is a bird?
snipe, the
Sniping.
chickens.
Yeah, when you went chicken hunting.
the wild chicken hunting
Right.
bird call. So thank you, Dixon, for that.
Sure.
However, I don't think he wrote these books. I think, and I strongly believe this, these were written by committee because there is no consistency throughout this book. It's like, I think it's like, and it's not like get together, map it out, and then write.
No,
and
it's
then
like-
write it together. It's like I'm writing this book, and then I'm gonna hand it off because, like, for the California thing, it's like, so these guys are going to go to California. I'm like, cool, they're going to get to go to California. And then
Right.
the next page, it's like, oh, but they didn't get to go
They
to
didn't get
California.
to go to
It's
California.
like the next guy took over the book, and he's like, I don't like them going to California. I'm going to have them not go to California, and I'm going to have them stay there. And then the next guy is like, yeah, but then they're in this helicopter, and then there's a fucking tornado, and then this other guy's
All
like,
right, we're
yeah,
getting
but
it.
nothing's going to happen with that. We're going to introduce
No,
that
it's fine.
tornado.
But that happens. It seems to be that there's like this editorial mandate that every chapter has to end with a cliffhanger. But then, because of that, some of the cliffhangers are incredibly boring.
And here's what I need to tell Dixon, is that cliffhangers have to amount to something.
Right.
It's not like you introduce it and it's scary and then it just goes away the next sentence.
Yeah. That's sort of the writing style of the time, I guess.
Or it's Dixon saying, I don't feel like writing all these books, man.
Yeah,
hey guys,
exactly.
can you help me write this?
Can I get a
the
group
other
of people?
dudes are like, I'm not too into that. They're on an island. That's boring. I'm gonna have them get off the island right away. Okay.
Well, so we got off track. One of my favorite things.
Ask your question. I'm sure they're important.
Yes. What I was going to say is, I really liked how Fenton tricked the boys into getting a summer job. That's what it seemed like it was. Is he's like, they're just hanging around the house all day. So he's like, boys, there's a mystery at the airfield.
Yeah.
So I got you jobs as delivery boys, but don't tell anybody.
Which was great, and
Yeah.
I thought this is going to go somewhere. How are they going to keep this going on?
While they're trying to...
And then they kept it going on for like 4 pages, and
Right.
then they're like, "This is too dangerous. We can't do this." I'm like, "Wait a second."
So that's
Hey,
the
man.
thing. They go to the job, and they meet their new boss, the guy who
Totally great
hired
guy.
them.
I
Totally
knew
great
he was
guy.
going to be great. I
Yeah,
liked him.
Mr. Allen.
Had a little
He's
crush on Mr. Allen. I
Yeah.
really liked him.
super nice. Tells the boys, like, I got you a job where you can go anywhere on the airfield and investigate anything. And then they meet their boss, whose name is like Mr. Rodax.
Yeah, Rodax. Right away, I was like, "Man, that guy better be a villain, or he
Yeah.
should die." And I wish people would die. I didn't realize
I know.
nobody died in these books. I wish people would
Sometimes
die.
people do
Nobody
die.
smokes. Nobody drinks. Nobody dies.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
That's not real
Come on,
life.
Dixon.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that they find out while they're at this airfield, though, is that there's a ghost pilot.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weird thing. It's like this creepy voice that comes over the radios, and it's his old friend Clint Hill, which is all the pilots have these great pilot names that
Clint Hill is a little gay porn star. name.
Right. Well, they're like right on the line. All of their names, I'm like, could either be a gay porn star or a ace pilot.
True.
I don't remember the other names, and I'm not going to look them
I
up.
know. I know.
There's way too many
There's
characters.
a ton of names.
Yeah,
and they
they're all,
introduce
like-
them all in like the first 10 pages. I'm like,
A
I'm not taking
35-year-old
notes.
white man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope you. I was like, I hope he doesn't ask me specific questions about the
No.
history of each guy, because I was like, I have to think of this. I have to think of my nephew for what's his name, Madden, because my nephew.
Oh,
name's
that's right,
Madden.
Madden.
I was like, I have to picture them, and that's why I don't read.
Right. Too much to keep
Yeah.
track of. That's why you write, because
Yeah.
then you're in charge of all of that. Yeah. So they meet their shitty like boss who tells him like you aren't going to last a day.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. Great.
Oh no, you mean you mean
Rodax or whatever his name was.
Rat poisoning. He sounds like rat poisoning.
Yeah, he sounds like a Ninja Turtles bad guy to me. I don't know, like Rodax. While they're walking around meeting the new head pilot who took over after Clint Hill died in a plane crash.
That's Peterson, right?
Peterson. You're doing better than I am.
We'll see how this goes. What's going to happen.
This is one of those weird Hardy Boys things. They hear a wooden, like it's something fall on the ground. And they turn around, they're in this perfectly clean air hangar, and there's one wooden plank laying on the ground.
Yeah, so the plank is there, and apparently that's a big clue.
So they go home, they tell their dad everything that happened. They go back to work, and they have a really bad day at work.
Oh, that's when the machine starts to fall on them.
Right. Well, first, their boss just makes them work all day, which really upsets
And it's really hard work.
Yeah, it's running all over delivering mail.
But they're doing a great job.
They're doing a great job. But they're like, we barely have any time to be sleuthing, which that was part of it where I was like, yeah, because you guys, this is just a summer job.
True.
But then like you said, their spider sense goes off. They feel something about to happen. They leap out of the way and like a airplane engine or something.
Yeah, and then it embeds itself into the concrete below. It's heavy shit.
That is some
that
heavy
would have
shit.
Fucked them up.
Yeah, they would have been found later, like
with
as
the
they
little
moved
feet,
it.
like the Wicked Witch of the East.
Exactly. But they get out of the way, no problem.
They're fine.
It's fine. But then they quit. They're like, this job's too hard.
Yeah,
and dangerous.
Yeah, and they want to devote their time to sleuthing, which could be dangerous. In a different world where there are people who actually shoot at each other and don't and threaten each other.
But they think that two teenage boys quitting their summer job after one really hard day would be too suspicious. So they have to get fired, which I'm like, that's the most reasonable thing ever. Like, no, those boys came here, were super entitled, and then worked a hard day. And yeah, there was an industrial accident, but like,
but it's clever thinking. I mean,
right?
Because
so they just show
Mr.
up.
A is like, you guys got to get yourselves fired, and then so they just
show up like 2 hours late, right? Yeah, and they get fired because the guy's looking for a reason to fire them.
And why is that?
Because he's the bad guy.
And he had a guilty conscience.
He had a guilty conscience.
These kids are too clever for me.
Right. I don't want them hanging around.
Two little man children are very clever.
Everybody seems to think that getting rid of the Hardys will get them off the case. They're like, they'll get distracted by another mystery, which knowing them could totally happen. That like a clue to a mystery that's unrelated to this would take them off in a totally.
But they're pit bulls.
Yeah, exactly. They stay on it. They decide to go for a plane ride. Why are they?
Is this the...
They basically just decide, like, we need to take pictures from the
photographs.
Oh, of where the plane crashed.
Yeah, there's a lot of plane stuff, which is kind of giving away the Great Airport Mystery.
Right, exactly.
But if it was called the Great Airport Mystery and there's no flying,
oh my God,
I'd be even more disappointed.
So disappointing. Really, though, he could have been like, well, it was at an airport.
I never promised. I
never said it was the Great
Airborne
Yeah, exactly. Mystery.
Suckers.
Oh, this is a perfect example of the cliffhanger thing, though, because they go on this plane ride and they go out to where the plane that they saw crashed, and they see like a big clearing that's clearly a runway, even though they're like, it's not long enough. I'm like, there's a runway. Yeah. And there's a cabin that they see, and then the plane engine dies just randomly. Yeah. And they start like, oh no, we're going to crash.
I thought they were going to be dead, and the rest of the book was going to be everyone mourning.
Everyone mourning the Hardy Boys for 120 pages.
That's what I thought.
But instead, it's fine.
It was totally cool.
It's fine.
They took great photos.
Yep. Jerry, their pilot.
They didn't make a single mistake in the taking of the photos and the bringing it to the photomat, except they left the camera.
Oh yeah, in the plane
with a bunch of shady characters leaving planks on footprints and stuff. And they should have said, "Well, there's that one dude who left the plank on the footprints."
Yeah, he's probably still sneaking around,
and so their camera gets ripped off.
Yeah, so they go talk, and Peterson tells them like, "I'm being haunted by Clint Hill. I can hear his voice on my radio. It's scaring me." Peterson's the new head pilot, and then they go back to the plane. They find out that their pictures have been stolen
and their camera.
So they call their buddies, right?
To help them. The best part.
Where they help them tail people.
They got a fat kid and they got a kid who can box.
Yeah, Chet, Morton, and Biff Cooper. I really liked how Alan last episode was like, yes, those are their real names. Chet and Biff.
Chet's great.
I know.
Chet's the star of the... Chet is the hero of this book.
He's everybody's favorite.
Is he the hero of every book?
I feel like he is.
Those kids would be dead in that.
Yes.
I mean,
basically what's happening is that they've called Chet and Biff, and they're going to split up and follow all the different suspects who work at the airport.
When Zim comes out,
He told Biff.
you take the car and follow him. I want to question the shop owner.
But when will he join up?
His friend asked. Frank reached into his pocket and took out an emergency detective kit. From it, he extracted a packet containing small pieces of vivid red paper and handed it to Biff.
As you drive,
He told him.
drop some of this paper every few seconds. That will leave a trail I can follow later.
But what if I what if I run out of paper?
Biff asked.
If you have to follow Zim that far,
Said Frank.
stay with him and find out where he goes. Then retrace your route. I'll be following the trail on foot for as far as it takes me.
Okay. I'm okay with that being the whole thing. Why does he have an emergency detective kit? What is in an emergency detective kit?
Because everything is an emergency.
Right, when you're a detective.
Yeah.
And you gotta have one in your
This
pocket.
guy knows.
But like, that was crazy. They've never had this before. And like a literal paper trail, I've never heard of a literal paper trail.
Maybe there's more to it. Maybe we're just not reading enough into it.
Nope, that's all there is.
Oh,
I
okay.
just checked. But yeah, what? That couldn't have been a real thing. That like just throw pieces of paper out your window.
That's the kind of thing when I'm teaching playwriting and a playwright is super lazy and they can't figure out how to solve a problem. They just come up with horrible things like that.
Yeah, and you're like, but people don't do that, and that's never happened. And
Oh
you're
my
like,
God.
It
And-
did now.
And yeah, I mean, yeah, that's always the excuse. I mean, it's like, well, but it did. He just did it, and it worked, didn't it? And
No.
I'm like, yeah, I guess it did. Okay.
Yeah, I found that whole thing super weird. The like, I'm gonna throw pieces of paper out of the car, but then it made me think like, if I'm ever kidnapped, I'm gonna try to like, though the kidnappers would be like, why are you ripping up that Doritos bag and throwing it out the window every couple of?
That's
and then they'd be like,
littering. Yeah, but the key is you have to have a friend who
Who
knows
knows?
that you're doing it. Otherwise, it's just, God damn.
unless
who littered all
it's
this
like
stuff?
a television detective who can be like, but look, there's a slip of Dorito, and then they walk a little bit more. It's Monk, right?
Like, there's no wind. There's
Obviously,
no wind in
there's
New York.
there's no wind in New York. He knew that.
Until
Oh God, that's right. It gets pretty bad.
it
See,
gets
so they,
bad. Yeah,
Frank fights a masked man. I wrote down. I guess that's when they're doing all the following of people.
they follow people.
They're like
look
loitering
the
around somebody's houses. I really like when that lady came out of her house and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's like,
And they're
"We're
like,
looking for Mr. Wilson." She's like, "Why are you sneaking around my backyard then?"
And then later they're like, she looked like she was telling the truth.
Yeah. Oh,
she
they've
wasn't. She was just suspicious of us being
Incredibly good judges of character. These boys are. That's when they're all doing this crappy like following the suspects. Chet is following a suspect, and he has brought like a bunch of sandwiches
there. And chocolate milk.
and chocolate milk, right? Because he's on his third sandwich.
And I was picturing like a little chocolate milk, but in the picture, it's
It's
a
a glass,
big long
half
chocolate
gallon.
milk.
Yeah, exactly. So
And poor Chet, dude. I love
I
Chet.
know.
And then
He's got a
Can I
se-
spoil this?
yeah, definitely.
And then one of the bad guys, I don't remember which one, catches up with him and dumps the chocolate milk in his face.
Yeah, literally just grabs it and throws it.
And
in
that's
his face.
that's as dangerous as the bad
as
guys
the bad
really
guys get. Yeah, really.
Nobody. I mean, they have guns, but
No, they
don't-
instead decide to just smash
like
the.
here's some chocolate for your face, fat boy.
Yeah, exactly. And so when he
man.
so when he shows back up to Frank and Joe, and they're like, "What happened?" And he's like, I saw the guy, but
I was eating.
I was eating. I was on my third
I had
sandwich."
some
Chet's
snacks.
got a serious eating disorder.
And he doesn't look that big in the picture.
No, but like it's the amount. Either he's really
He's got really
leaned
good
into
metabolism.
type. Yeah, he must. He's constantly on all
Or a
these
tapeworm.
adventures.
He's got a tapeworm.
Oh, or a tapeworm. Whew, that's gonna be a terrible mystery.
The mystery of the
The
tapeworm.
mystery of Chet's tapeworm.
Oh, that's gonna be fucking awesome. And then they shrink themselves down and they go into his
so
belly.
it's Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah.
Oh my
and they
God.
fight the tapeworm.
So excited for that. Did they take their film because they had their camera was stolen?
Their camera and the film is stolen. I don't remember if this is before or after. I think it's after what we were just talking about.
right.
And they go into the
Like
the
photo
mat.
mat.
That's not
Yeah.
photo mat. and the guy doesn't figure it out, and then the other guy comes in, and
He's like, those are my photos.
and they're like, well, show them all. And he's like, those are all of them. I'm going to sue you.
Okay,
and they're
one,
like, wait a second,
that
those
guy-
aren't all of them.
Okay, that whole thing was weird because it's this guy who goes to the photo shop to pick up his pictures, and there's these two teenage boys hanging out there. And he's like, I'm here for my photos. And he's like, those are our photos, which would be the weirdest thing to happen to me ever.
True.
And then they're like, pull them all out. And he's super cagey. And immediately I'm like, these are private photos.
Yeah, and they're like of his wife and stuff.
Or whatever, but like he's clearly doesn't want to show you these photos, which means you probably don't want to see them. And then
But
when
they
they're-
know. They know.
They
He's
know.
up to shit.
Yeah. So then when he's like, I'll show them to you, and then he's like,
There they are. That's it.
And he's clearly like selects a few photos, but then they find out they like wrestle them from him.
Well, yeah, and they're saying no, all of them, and then there are more, and then they start fighting him. No,
Right.
he punches the photo
Oh,
mat
that's
dude,
right.
runs out the back. They catch up with him. They start fighting him, and then he's like, "Whoa, I can't take it. I'm
So,
sorry.
Yeah, and he hands them over.
Come
and
to my
it's
apartment.
their
and meet my wife and across the hall neighbor who is one of your bad guys."
Yeah, and he was just picking up the photos for his neighbor, which I'm like, if that's the case, if my neighbor's like, can you go pick up some photos and all this weird stuff happens, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to leave these here. I'm going to have my neighbor come get them himself. This is very weird.
But you don't think
I wouldn't punch out the photo mat guy.
No, that was the bad. But he was cool. I mean, he just
He took
punched
it.
the dude in the jaw, ran, then he's like, "Okay, I give up." And the guy back there is like, you could have given up before you punched me in the jaw,
That's
bro.
that's like a middle school fight. Like you punch somebody and then you're like, I
I
give
don't
up.
really
I
want
give
to
up.
commit to this.
I just wanted to hit you. Yeah. So
that happens. You
Oh,
find
right.
out some other things.
we
at the
find
at
out
the
that
apartment.
that all of the Stan-wide bad guys or whatever are leaving on a cargo plane to California.
Right, this is my favorite part. I was
Yeah.
like, yay, we get to go to California.
So
I'm,
they're like,
into this.
We're gonna load up a plane and we're gonna follow their plane, which I didn't really get that. Nobody's filing any flight plans or anything. This
that
whole
doesn't
thing.
exist in
Just
this world.
fire it up, take
actions. I noticed that doesn't exist in this world. Actual police work doesn't exist in
No.
this world at all.
Cops don't do anything.
Parenting, not really.
Not a
very
real
much.
thing. Even really managing a company doesn't work
That's
the same
true.
way. Where you're
It's
like,
just, you can just go and ask somebody for a plane to go somewhere, and they take you there.
they take you there.
And apparently, the Caribbean is 3 hours away from New York.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, you can make it there in a couple hours. But yeah, so now they're going to California.
Which I was so excited about.
Yeah, and they spend like 2 chapters getting ready for this trip. And then as they show up, right in time to get on their flight and take off, the pilot's like, I tried to call you. They left last night.
Also, calling is really difficult for these people.
Yeah,
I understand it's ancient.
I know,
like the
but-
30s/50s.
But they're like, I tried to call you. Well, we were at home.
And then they're always saying, like, it won't reach, I can't call, it won't reach that far. I mean, I can call this guy who can call that guy who can call the person.
No,
who
I
can get
realized
hold of.
when they were all splitting up to trail different suspects, I'm like, God, you guys need cell phones.
It would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, if you could be like, all right, guy, Biff's like, I lost him. I'll come back and pick you up.
And
But
they need guns and they need
yeah, they need
some
like
alcohol.
really just guns would be so. These boys have to start packing heat at
And
some
they
point.
need to get stoned a little bit.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah, I feel like these adventures would be way more fun for them
If
if they
Joe
were just
was
a little tipsy.
baked.
Yeah,
Joe-
if Joe
Joe
is
was
baked
baked.
the whole time.
And he's
Wait,
like,
wait.
a clue, man. I found the clue. And Frank's
You
like,
guys-
you showed me that clue 5 times, Joe. 5 times. I'm
Frank,
tired
you
about
don't
that clue.
you don't think the ghost is like real, right? Because like ghosts aren't real, right?
They're not,
Right.
man. That was just Chet. I told you, Chet is just fucking with you, dude.
Every time there's been a ghost in these books, it's not been a ghost.
It's just Chet.
God, I wish it would be a
Is
ghost.
it always
one
Chet?
time. It's not always Chet. Usually it's
I
like
mean,
some
yeah.
people in a graveyard doing like a signal to a plane or like there was rats in a piano in an old ghost town like
Oh.
dance hall.
Oh.
That was actually pretty scary because they were like, it's a ghost. And then instead rats poured out of a piano, which was way scarier
Worse
than
than
a
a
ghost.
ghost.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And much more real.
That would make me pee
I know.
more than a ghost.
The amount that these boys don't pee their pants is super impressive to me. Oh, so they can't go to California now. They're like, we don't know where they went in California. We don't know.
and I
anything about-"
almost just quit.
Yeah, I know.
At that point.
All of that lead up, they don't even go.
I wanted to find out what California was like at that time, and are they going to meet some celebrities?
No.
No, they didn't.
But so then instead, they're like, we'll take a helicopter ride. And that's just as easy as getting a plane.
It is. You
They
can
just
just
call
call.
up
You
a
just
dude.
call it up. And I had the impression that if they didn't find a pilot, they would have just been able to just grab it and
That's
fly
the
it.
thing. Every time they're talking about all the complicated controls of the plane, I was like, honestly, Frank, like, if things go bad, though, just take the yoke because you probably know what you're doing.
Frank knows a lot.
Instinctively, you could probably fly a helicopter, Frank.
And I think Frank just I think Frank knows all of it. And then he'll like see some clues and he'll be like, I'm going to let Joe take this one.
Right.
He's feeling a little
down on himself.
And then Joe's back there.
Frank has made some pretty dumb mistakes. In one, he thought that...
we're not talking about one. We're talking about this one.
We're talking about this one. That's right.
And he makes zero dumb mistakes in this
That
one.
is not true.
Zero.
He makes a really stupid mistake later, and we're going to get there.
Frank is flawless in this.
So they're taking this helicopter, and they're going to go out to where they
saw that cabin and
the
stuff.
cabin and the what is clearly a landing strip, right, in the woods. Joe says, I'd like to learn how to fly one of these. And I was like, Joe, you probably know how to fly one of these. Have you tried?
Just grab it.
Just grab it.
What can go wrong, man?
I know.
We're in the air. Just grab that stick and move it.
You're the Hardy Boys. You'll be fine. As he leveled the craft out on an easterly heading, Joe glanced to his right. Suddenly, the boy detective sat rigid in his seat and stared from the window with an expression of disbelief.
Look!
He shouted frantically. The pilot spun the helicopter around to face the direction Joe was pointing. Moving toward them was a black funnel-shaped column of air, stemming from the base of an intensely dark cloud.
It looks like a tornado.
Frank yelled.
It is.
Mac exclaimed.
They generally move in a northeasterly direction, about 30 to 40 miles an hour. We might be able to outrun it.
He whirled the craft around, but was greatly alarmed to find that their route of escape was blocked by the surrounding hills. The dark cloud base moving swiftly overhead cut off the possibility of climbing out over the top of the higher terrain.
What do we do? That tornado's getting closer!
Joe shouted.
We'll have to head for the ground.
The pilot replied grimly. I love all of this. That, like, of course the boys make a mistake of getting in a helicopter and a tornado shows up in a hilly area.
Yeah,
like
of New York, of upstate New
of
York.
upstate New York.
That's not their mistake.
tornado.
You can't pin that on Frank because that is not a mistake. I would do that exact same thing, and I'm a nervous guy.
It's going to be just fine to fly in a helicopter in upstate New York.
Last thing on my mind.
Tornadoes.
Last thing on my mind.
What I like is that the tornado splits into two, and you think it's going to be okay, but then one of them takes off right after them.
It's like Twister. I would be like, this dude totally ripped off Twister, but then I remember Twister.
This was written
a lot
like
longer.
Yeah.
After this.
They bring the helicopter down. It's fine. And
Nobody
Joe
dies.
says, wow, I hope that never happens to me again. And I'm like, I don't think it will. But then again,
It happened once.
you will probably see another tornado up close before you die.
I
before.
bet you in one of these other books there's another tornado.
Oh, yeah.
And then Frank's going to be like,
Remember that time when you wished it wouldn't happen to you again, Joe?
back in The Great Airport Mystery, and it's all like italicized.
do they do that?
Yeah, at the end of the books, but sometimes they're like, in the last one, there was something about a stolen car, and they're like, in the Shore Road Mystery, and like in the recap, but it's all capitalized and italicized.
Well, that's good. That's advertising. Makes
Gotta
you want to go
market
back
the
and read
books. And
that.
you're like, well, I gotta find that one at my local library and or school library. After the guy's checking out the helicopter to make sure that it's okay to fly,
It's fine.
they decide to just go snooping around. And
Like, oh wait, here's the racist part.
yes,
They snoop around like a
Si-
couple of Indians.
silently as Indians.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been used before. It's not great.
It's a little racist.
It's a little racist. It's one of those like awkward. It's trying to be a positive trait, but that doesn't make it any better.
Right.
Yeah, strong as the Turks.
Right.
I don't know.
do they do that too?
They do weird stuff like that all the time. That I'm like, I didn't even know that was a stereotype.
Hey, once you say it, it is.
It is, right. That's true. But while the boys are snooping around, they get cornered by the loud, angry, deaf guy from earlier.
Anchor.
They find that guy and then another guy, and they get like cornered with hunting arrows.
Arrows, yeah.
And I like that their strategy is to be like, cool, we're out.
Yeah.
They just clear out. And then they silently sneak like Indians.
There's nothing you can do with that.
After they've left, they sneak around. And while they're snooping around, then after they've left these crooks, they find, I thought this was actually so cool. I was like, that's actually really cool.
The
But
cave?
the cave.
You thought that was cool?
I wrote, that's a Looney Tunes thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think
that's
that's what they're going for. But
No, I don't think so
I don't know.
either.
Cool is the same thing
I thought it was cool because
because you're a Looney Tunes fan, but when you're actually reading it
No,
as a piece of literature,
right,
it's kind of like.
but I can't anymore. So when I'm
Okay.
reading these and something wacky like that's just, I'm like, ha ha ha, that's so cool. No, this wouldn't trick anybody. What they find, well, I'll just read it. Approaching still closer, the Hardys were amazed to see what really confronted them. Spread across a portion of the steep slope was a huge piece of heavy canvas. Painted on its surface were trees, grass, boulders, and bits of brush. The representation was so well done that it was not detectable unless viewed from within a few feet of canvas. Okay,
What's the name of that traptor, though?
amazing camouflage.
Which is weird.
I know, I hate the giving it away.
Yeah, but also it's like it's fantastic I mean, come on.
why wouldn't
Joe.
he
Yeah,
just say
amazing camouflage?
it's amazing Yeah, you want like Frank to nudge him and be like, amazing.
And then the next part, which was really cool, was when that little coyote steps up
Yeah.
and then walks into the canvas.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and they're
as
like,
if-
oh,
and
it's
you're
not
like,
a
whoa.
canvas. I was thinking, if these guys are so good at painting landscapes that they can trick somebody 3 feet away into thinking they're in reality, why aren't they doing like set painting for theater or like just
Because then they
painting?
can make lots of money.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I'm just saying, like, it seems like one of them has the skill to do something other than crime.
I think there's another book in there, and I think it's
Oh.
about a disgruntled
a
an
disgruntled
artist who just never quite made it.
Yeah.
And then he has the opportunity
To
his
like
anchor.
paint his paint his
and he just signs
his
it with a little
masterpiece.
anchor. And then he's with these bad guys. He's like, oh, I'm deaf and I feel like I don't do anything for you guys. And then the other guy's like, we need a canvas of brush and treats to
Well,
cover
couldn't
this
we
cave.
put like real brush in front of the cave?
No. We're in the woods. We don't have any. Well, we have this canvas though, and we have an artist, and that's where you come in, Anchor.
You called me an artist. Thank you. They inside the cave they find like all the loot and the plane Clint Hill's plane, right?
Where he disappeared, the plane that went down, or
Yeah.
his plane. It wasn't the plane that went down because that thing was in.
That's so confusing.
Yeah, but it was
anyway,
Clint Hill's plane.
Clint Hill, the missing pilot or dead pilot,
and all the stuff that's all the not plutonium, but platinum that's missing.
slightly less dangerous to smuggle than plutonium.
So
but...
one would think, I included, that
Mhm.
should be the end. And I'm like,
Right.
bad guys caught,
bad guys, loot
stuff
found.
done.
Even the motive getaway. I mean, like, and we know what the motive was.
Yeah, I was thinking,
Profit.
Awesome, done.
Yeah, I agree with you. This seems like the end.
Uh-huh.
So if you had another 60 pages to fill, what would you fill them with? What
Is
would
this
be
me?
happening? Yeah, if you as a writer. Like, what would you do at this point when you're realizing that there's still 60 pages left?
Well, aside from going deeper into the Anchor story and his
Right.
art and
His art, yeah.
his artistic life, well, of course we don't know. Of course we don't know about the ghost.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that. I would probably have, because we know that there are a lot more bad guys.
Yeah, there are a bunch more bad guys.
Or we assume that there
Pretty
are more
much
bad
everyone
guys.
we've met.
This also is right where we get to first meet the most inept fucking police officers in the world.
Yeah.
Because they show up
Like, oh, good
And-
job, boys.
and they're like, well, you guys keep and do your investigating. We'll just stand out here outside the cave. So what I would do is I would have some of those other bad guys come in and kill the helicopter pilot,
Yeah.
torture and kill, like Tarantino style, the cops.
Yeah.
Kill everyone in the cave except the Hardy Boys, and then make them watch. The bad guys would make the Hardy Boys watch the other bad guys torture their brother.
Yeah.
So it would be,
To get for no information.
just
Seriously.
like you totally fucked our shit up.
Yeah, you made us
Now
kill cops.
this is what happens.
This is all your fault.
This is what happens.
Yeah.
Let's see how many of your body parts we can cut off without you dying.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I do it.
Pretty dark. I like it.
I mean, I think they've put their foot in some business that they had no business messing around with.
Oh, yeah,
And
absolutely.
So they need to pay.
I also did not understand why the cops were just like, all right, boy. Well, they're the Hardy Boys, though. They know better. They're like, look, the fastest way to get this crime solved and get everybody home is just let the Hardy Boys do
cops
their
didn't
thing.
Do I mean,
No, they
didn't
did
do
not.
anything.
They literally put handcuffs on guys.
They
they
loaded
were like,
some
"Well,
stuff up.
We'll call your boss.
They're basically they work for U-Haul. These cops.
One of the only... Yeah, they're cops that work for U-Haul. Yeah, that's basically what
loaded
they
up
did.
the helicopters and
Yep. That's it. They call the boss, and the boss, Mr. Allen, the guy we like, and
Yeah.
he flew out there on his own in a helicopter. And there was one of the only even close to emotionally resonant moments in
when he sits in that plane.
Yeah, he sees that it's Clint's plane, and he climbs into the cockpit, and he just sits in it, and the boys like stand around. It's really awkward, and then they just realize, like, they're like, "What is he doing in there?" And they realize, like, oh, he's very sad.
Yeah.
His friend is dead.
Yep.
And that's the end of the chapter. It's just him.
It was really sad. I mean, I felt bad for Mr. Allen. Again, Mr. Allen is... So maybe I'd let Mr. Allen go in my version.
He'll live through this. But no, it was one of those moments where I was like, wow, way to go, Hardy Boy. You actually like managed to pluck a heartstring for a second.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's probably...
I felt it. I felt it.
I
had a tear.
We're in the final stretch.
Because then it goes crazy.
Oh, that's right.
Because up to now, I was like, all right, it's clearly different writers.
Yeah.
And it's the end. And then they're like, it's not the end. We still have some other things. We're going to go to an island.
Oh, yeah. So first they snoop around the cabin again, and they find a note that says, that ghost knows too much. And just like, why would you write that down?
And they're looking all over the place, and they don't find anything. And then they find the glove with the initials in it.
Right. Glove with a monogram glove. I monogram all my clothes. I don't know if you do.
Just my underwear.
Just your underwear. You got to make sure that if someone finds your underwear, they know whose it is. They go back to the airfield. I don't remember exactly why, but they're just walking across the hangar, and all of a sudden there's this like pink, 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 as something rolls in front of them.
Oh, yeah, that's that.
This is where I was like, it's the end of the mystery. All right. And they're going back to like do some final wrap up at the airplane hangar, and all of a sudden, grenade.
It's a grenade.
Pink, pink, pink.
They couldn't think. No, but that's awesome. It's like grenade. One of them's going to get blown up. I thought one of the Hardy Boys was going to die.
No, you got to stop thinking that's going to happen, man. This is like...
I just walk into this as a book. I don't walk into it
as a series.
Like an entire series.
No, it would be so much
Joe
better,
could die.
And then, like, wouldn't it be a great series if it was, like, Frank as a detective who's haunted by the ghost of his dead brother?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you watch that show?
It sounds like a late 80s movie.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd watch that.
I think it's one of the movies that would have killed Michael Keaton's career.
Oh, sure.
Before Birdman revived it.
I think that would have been great. And then it would all have been about, like, his brother trying to, like, help his older brother lose his virginity or something.
Like, as a ghost?
Yeah, as a ghost. Really... Like, a little bit of, like, Ghost Cyrano thing going on. But the ghost is in love with the girl.
But he can't do it.
No, he can't do it.
do it.
Dude, we got a screenplay here. We got to write all this down.
Someone's
okay.
Going to steal it.
Yeah, now they will. The grenade is nothing.
Yeah, it blows up, but they're fine.
Yeah. No, and they don't even, like, again, don't piss their pants or anything. They're like, another grenade, guys.
Yeah.
Twice in one lifetime. I'm sure they'll have more grenades thrown at them.
So you haven't encountered any grenades?
It was a fake. It was the last grenade that got thrown through one of their windows was a dud. But, like, Joe ran over and grabbed it. And I was like,
Joe did that? I think that's a Frank thing.
And then threw it out the window, and then they went outside and kicked it a bit to find out if it was live.
That's not a good
strategy.
That probably wasn't Frank's idea.
No, probably not. Yeah, so they found out something is in the Caribbean. Like, the bad guys might be in the Caribbean.
I forget how they figured it out. But then they're like, we're going to go to this island.
We're going to go to yeah, there's 30 pages left in the book at this point.
They didn't go to California. They're not going to this island.
Right.
Absolutely not.
But they
fucking do. And it takes them 3 hours to get there.
Right.
And
this is the only research I did.
Yeah, they did get big, like strapping bodyguards.
Late 20s, early 30s, like bodyguards.
With good, firm handshakes.
Yeah.
And then the mom was totally worried. And I Googled it, and it doesn't exist, that island.
Yeah, the Isle de la Mer.
Yeah,
which
is the Isle.
So is that the island of the sea? Is that what that translates into?
It's bad. I mean, especially
not
hurricane
even trying.
season.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't call it that.
The island.
Well, maybe it did exist. That's why I couldn't find it.
Oh,
it
right.
existed
It's been wiped
and it got
off
swallowed
the map.
up.
Yeah.
There we go. But so it's this tropical Caribbean island, 3 hours from New York, and they fly there and.
It's too rocky, so they have to land on the ocean and anchor the amphibious plane.
And then they get the inflatable raft, go to a little cabin on the beach, and find a very important clue.
Very important clue. They find an air chart
that says we're going to Montana.
Yeah, that's like a line straight from the Caribbean island back to Bayport and then out to Montana. And they're like, to Montana.
And they're like, we can go to Montana from here, from the Caribbean, right? In this little.
And the guy's like, with a full tank. Sure.
Especially since we got all this extra airplane gas.
Fuel. That was just in giant drums at this cabin.
So that takes all morning.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, this was something that confused me. They loaded 50-gallon metal drums of jet fuel onto an inflatable raft and then rode that out to the plane?
I think whoever wrote the first part didn't tell the guy who took over writing the second part that they had done that because They're like they're kids. They won't pay attention to
remember
shit.
that.
They got fuel. That's
Yeah.
all they need to know.
So they got fuel, and they
enough to get to Montana.
right, and they get out to the plane, and they're gonna take the plane off,
And
but
then
there's
another storm.
big old storm. They're like, the weather looks good. We
And
shouldn't
the
have any
coolest-
problems.
And the coolest part, oh god, what's the pilot's name at this point?
Jerry.
The pilot is Madden. Yeah, Jerry Madden.
Jerry Madden, yeah.
And so Frank is like, no, I'm totally gonna take the raft and I'm gonna pull the plane out and make it secure. And then he's like, you can't do that, Frank.
Yeah, he's like,
the raft is just gonna get wiped out. And he's like, no, I can do it. Like,
and
4 strokes in, the raft gets wiped out, and Frank's like, oh man, Jerry, you're so totally right. I should not have done that.
So what I didn't understand about that is that there's these 2 strapping like bodyguards with them the whole time.
Yeah,
that aren't like that when Frank's like, I'm gonna jump out and tie these ropes to some big rocks, and Jerry's like, you can't, you're gonna die.
If only we had strong dudes with us.
Right, but none of those dudes like grab Frank and just pin him to a seat, and they're like, no sir, we're here to protect you. No, at no point. They're
just here to beat people up.
Right, but they don't even do that. So yeah, that was the dumb mistake, that Frank's so confident in his abilities.
He didn't make 4 strokes into that water.
Comes back, he's like,
that raft was history. He's like,
oh,
I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
Like,
in retrospect,
I really
right.
thought I could do it.
That was really clear.
No, but you're right.
I envisioned me on shore yanking the plane back, and I did not make it happen.
Yeah, he gets like 15 feet from the plane. He's like, oh, this is so hard. But they managed to like get the engines fired up, basically by Jerry saying like, I'm gonna try something a little crazy.
I'm gonna start the plane.
He flips some switches and starts the engine. He's like, all right, go.
Oh, that worked. That worked, guys. We're in control.
So they like get up in the air, and he's like, all right, are we ready to go to Montana? He's like, we don't have any fuel.
Yeah. So they wait out the storm, then they end up
What?
Is this when? Yeah, and then they end up all passed out on the beach.
Yeah,
they
they
sleep
just
there the night.
They sleep on the beach because the storm goes away as soon as it needs to for the story, and then they have to do the fuel thing again, which I'm like, you just did this.
Yeah,
but
then
clearly
they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. Everybody's fine.
On their way to Montana.
We're fine in Montana. They have an area,
and yeah. Well, I don't know. They have a map drawn, and then they're like, I'm sure it's somewhere here in Montana.
Right.
That's all we know.
They look out the windows.
Look through all the mountain of Montana, and look for a flat part where a plane might land.
And I wrote,
and then they're
3, 2, 1.
Whoa, there it is.
There it is.
That is it.
Doesn't take long at all.
I think whoever took over the writing for the Dixon at this point, they just pictured Montana on the map and thought, it's like a mountainy area, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure people could find a flat part on that.
It's all mountains. So if there's a flat part, that's got to be the cabin.
Jagged rocks. They could find a landing strip, and they did.
Yeah. And they land the plane. They're like, we're going to go trespass in this cabin we saw from the air.
And this is the mistake. This is
the
big mistake. And I don't think it's Frank's. I don't think it was Frank's fault.
So,
it's totally Joe's.
I don't remember exactly how it goes down.
There's the shelves with the food, and then on the top of the shelf there's this thing. I don't remember what it is that they lift up, and they stand by the shelf.
They like overpower the bad guys and tie them up who are in the cabin.
The 2 bad guys,
yeah.
Peterson and Lair or something.
Yeah. Yeah. To the bad guys, and they're like, tell us everything. And one of the crooks is like, all right, all the information you need is in that metal thing on the top of that shelf.
And they're like, thanks, crook. I'm sure thank you. Thanks for turning around and really helping us out.
Yeah.
They walk over and drop through a fucking trapdoor.
Yeah, as soon as they touch the thing. But Joe even is like, Frank, can you come over and help me get this?
See, it's Joe's fault.
It is Joe's fault. And so they fall through the trapdoor and immediately
they get gassed.
Who built this?
I don't know. But
why did the crooks build a trapdoor with a gas release in it? They're not super villains.
But later Peterson reveals that he used to hunt there with his dad.
Right, but what?
So what? He didn't tell us what he was. Maybe he was like hunting
people.
Jews.
Right, you're right. It's sort of like when at one point Chet's pretending to be a ghost and he goes in his parents' room and he comes out with these white sheets.
We forgot about that.
And I really thought that at some point it was going to be him being like, I found this sweet ghost costume in my dad's closet. And like, woo! Yeah. But that luckily that part was assuaged. Yeah, Chet comes with them. I forgot.
We forgot to mention Chet's with him.
Chet comes with them to the Caribbean and to Montana.
Yeah. Because he can do a voice.
Oh, right. He can
That's
do...
why.
He
They're
can,
like, that voice might be able to come in, might come in handy,
He can-
Chet. Hop on board to the
he
Caribbean
can
with
like
us.
perfectly mimic the voice of the ghost over the radio and singing high
That song.
high passage. I can't remember what the
song that I... So the brothers...
They're trapped in
the
a trap
brothers
door?
Hardy are out of play. They're in the dungeon. They are gassed.
Yeah.
I thought they were dead. I thought they were completely dead at that point, and that was the end of the Hardy Boys.
End of the Hardy
books.
Boys. Yeah, they've been trapped in gas. But then another plane comes in for a landing, and
They wait.
the bodyguards and Chet and the pilot are like, let's hide. And they hide.
They hide their plane. Then the guys land and see the plane right away.
Right, yeah. And they're like, oh, there's another plane here. But Chet's plan is weird. Chet's like, they don't know who I am. One of them does. One of them totally fought him in an alleyway, right? Maybe that guy's in the cabin. Maybe that was Clint.
It was one of the dudes in the
Yeah.
cabin, I think. I didn't
So,
know.
but his whole plan is like, I'm going to tell
I'm going to make him think that it was a double cross.
Yeah.
And he basically says, like, if this is a double cross, and the guys are like, oh man, it must be a double cross.
And then they start like brawling with each other.
Yeah, because then Peterson and the other guy are then not tied up, and they run out of the cabin, and then the bad guys just start beating each other up.
Yeah, because they think that they've all double crossed each other. Chet runs into the cabin and is like, I don't see Frank and Joe. Where are they? And one of the crooks is like, they're in a trapdoor.
Trapdoor. Yep. The
Oh.
other crooks are like, dude.
It's like, well,
We were caught.
we were caught.
Might as well.
Yeah. And so so they let him out, and they're like, they've been gassed. And he's like, oh, it's harmless.
It's harmless. Yeah. Don't worry, they're not dead.
Why? Why did you have this thing?
And if you're gonna use gas on your bad guy, on the people who are trying to find you out, kill them. Use mustard gas down there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go to all the trouble to rig up that's the thing, though, is like, it's a trap door that goes into a room that locks and then fills with gas just to knock you out. This is a cabin that you take like victims to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. I
yeah.
think the guy Peterson.
They were
is
hunting
kind
the
of
most
like a
dangerous
Nazi,
game.
He's like a Nazi or something.
Yeah, he was definitely trapping folks. But they let him out. There's this big, long wrap-up.
Peterson just lets it go. He's like, I am tired of being a villain. I'm going to tell you guys, because I know you only have 5 pages left. I'm going to tell you everything.
God, it went on and on. And then they get home. They go to check in with Mr. Allen once they finally get home and let him know like all the great stuff. And they find out that Clint Hill
is alive and bearded.
Yes, and has a beard, which apparently
Which is in the 30s and the 50s. That is something.
That is, yeah, he grew a full beard.
I mean, that says a lot about a character. It either says you're homeless,
yeah,
or it says
you have amnesia.
You're like a dude who hops trains. But then he talks. Then when he's talking about how when he survived that plane crash that they all thought he died in, he talks about how he went to Isla del Mar.
Yes,
and the natives found him. And they only spoke their native language. As you know, Peterson and I and our passengers crashed at sea during a return flight from Isla del Mar. After we hit the water, the 3 mineralogists, I'm really tired. That's why I didn't know that word, drowned almost instantly. Peterson took the one available life raft and left me clinging to the wing of the plane. I was slightly injured and couldn't swim after him.
What did Peterson hope to gain by abandoning you?
Frank asked curiously.
As he paddled off in the raft, he shouted to me that now he would become chief pilot of Stanwide, and that he would fix Mr. Allen. Then I fainted. I must have unconsciously clung to a piece of wreckage, because next thing I knew, I was on the island being cared for by some natives. They spoke only their own language, which I couldn't understand.
Luckily, the natives were friendly,
Frank said.
Oh, yes,
Clint replied.
After I recovered, they took me to another, bigger island in a dugout canoe. It was there that I managed to get a job and earn enough money to buy boat passage back to the United States. I decided to keep my identity a secret and stay in hiding until I found out what Peterson was up to. I didn't even get in touch with Mr. Allen. I wanted to be sure of my ground before making any accusations. When did you decide to become a ghost?
Asked Joe, grinning.
I knew Peterson was superstitious.
That's good. You can end there. It goes on. Yeah, if you want to keep going, but that's plenty.
But that Mr. Allen last line.
Yeah. So yeah, he tells him that he can have his job back as a pilot. But you want to read Mr. Allen's last line?
That is, if our ghost gets around to shaving off those whiskers. But what they didn't put in at the end is everyone laughing, and then freeze frame like at the end of an A-Team episode.
Yeah, like they should all be. Yeah, or like Murder She Wrote has those where Jessica's like tipping back her head, laughing, showing all of her teeth. And
Yep, A-Team is the same show.
Yeah, it is the same show.
I watched A-Team. You watched Murder She Wrote.
They're the same. Well, that was a particularly fun Hardy Boys adventure. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, my final thought was about the whiskers.
Yeah, like can't have a bearded pilot.
Mr. Allen just drops the mic after that one.
Oh,
he's like, I'm funny, bam,
and then you got to walk out of the room.
He has his boyfriend back.
Yeah, and he was so sad. I'm happy that there's back together. Thank you so much for joining me, Josh. I hope we can have you
thanks
back.
for having me.
I hope you enjoyed
this thing back.
No, you keep that. That is yours. That is your memento for being on the show.
Each episode, we have one of our favorite bartenders mixes up a custom cocktail to go along with the book. Today's drink was created by Tracy Ann Hickman and William Joseph Chapman III at Racine's. The recipe for the drink is available at thehardyboysdrinkbook.com. Enjoy! Okay, I am here at Racine's with Tracy Ann Hickman and William Joseph Chapman III.
Damn straight.
That's right. Okay, great. I love your names because they are right out of the Hardy Boys.
Absolutely.
It's like they went to the mansion of William Joseph Chapman III. So I love that. You are good friends of our host for this episode, Josh Hartwell.
Yes. Absolutely.
And he and Jim have been coming in here for a long time. How long have they been your
Oh my god, I think since the place opened, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's,
if not the old restaurant.
Racine has been open for over 30 years now.
Yeah.
And they've been coming to this location for 14 years since it opened here.
That's great.
From our previous location on Bannock Street.
And we were talking about the large presence of the theater community in Racine's. You usually can't come into Racine's for lunch or dinner without seeing somebody that you will know from theater.
Absolutely. It's definitely the meeting and the shaker, or they say the meet and greet and the shakers of the high-profile people of Denver during lunch. A lot of business deals go down here, and it's also a really relaxed place for people to just come and grab a bite to eat, too.
Yes, the food is very good at Racine's.
You know, it's not just serious business lunch, it's also casual lunch as well.
So
a mix of everyone.
So Josh told me that not only are you his favorite bartenders, but you're also best friends.
We are.
So I have. So what is it like being best friends that bartend together?
Oh, us bartending together
Yes.
is the most fun ever.
We have the most fun.
Yeah.
It's just like playing at work, you know. We
That's
hang
great.
out, we have dance parties, like chat it up, you know, and I think people could tell that we're friends and that we have a good time, so that's always really awesome.
So I would be remiss if I didn't ask, do you have any secret codes? Like if there's a customer that like is following when you guys are around the bar and not stopping talking to you, do you have like signals to get each other out of situations like the Hardy Boys?
Usually it'll be something like I'll walk behind her and just like tap her shoulder, and it's like our signal of like something's going on.
Yeah.
You know, we can figure out like, and then it's a game too, like who we can figure out which one it is, and so we know like we play off each other into that.
That's great. Okay, what would you do if one of you got kidnapped? What would be the game plan?
Oh, one of us
my
got kidnapped?
gosh.
Yeah.
This is right up our alley.
This
Okay.
is.
Are you kidding me? Well, first of all, I would put her picture on a bottle of wine because probably
Great.
probably find her faster.
Yes,
Probably
definitely.
find me faster. We put it on a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
Print custom labels.
No, we know this neighborhood so well. I would know exactly where to go to find her.
That's great.
You know, the clues would be too easy.
Yeah.
Way too easy.
That's
I
fantastic.
think that's pretty much the game plan is the whiskey. Find the Jeep. Where's the margaritas this week?
You would just watch like a trail of margarita mix.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if I'm
Oh, you
kidnapped,
went this
it's not
way.
going
You
to
went
stop
this
me.
way.
Well, in Capitol Hill, there's only like 4 places that we hang out, so
There you go.
We're probably pretty easy to find.
Okay, that's great. I like that because, yeah, in the Hardy Boys, when somebody gets kidnapped, they're like, have we checked the caves? He's in the caves. And then they go to the caves and he's always there. So he's like up in the attic. He's been up there the whole mystery. So what is the history of Racine?
Racine was started by 3 partners. It's Lee Goodfriend, David Racine, and Dixon Staples. And their first restaurant was where Annie's is now on Colfax.
Okay.
And that was Goodfriend. So that they all worked at Zach's, which is kind of on Colfax. I don't think it's there anymore, but that was like the original bar. So it was like
Back
us.
in the 70s.
Okay.
So they were just friends that bartended together and decided to start a restaurant. So
And then one of them got top billing.
Well, Lee Goodfriend.
Okay.
She got top billing.
Great.
And then Racine's was their second restaurant. So then Racine's. And then Dixon's was downtown.
Okay.
Which isn't there anymore. So we're the last one.
The last surviving. So that's probably the best.
It is.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Although before I worked here, I used to frequent Dixon's downtown quite often.
Yeah, but
that was my romping ground.
Well,
before.
I mean, it's in the family.
Yeah, absolutely,
that
it
works.
is.
So what is your... obviously, you guys love bartending together. What is your favorite thing about bartending?
I think it's the interaction with people. It's constantly on the go. There's always things to do. I love making drinks for people, and especially when we get going and we're really working hard in the wells making drinks. People love to watch it, and it's kind of like you're on stage.
Yeah, I know.
You're a little bit on stage, and they just look in amazement of how you're just grabbing all these different ingredients and you pour it in a glass and it fits the glass perfectly, and then you just like move on to the next one. They're like, how is this happening? How do they know how much they're pouring and how much of this and how much of that? And it's just a lot of fun.
It's the interaction with people.
It's always different.
You know, you get to meet people all the time. Where are you from? Well, we get a lot of people who come on vacation and business because of the hotels in the area. They send them over here. So that's always fun to just meet new people. And, you know, I don't know how people like sit in office and don't talk all the day. I would get in so much trouble if I worked in an office.
Then after work they go out to the bars, hopefully, and that's where they're, and then they talk to the bartender. And
yeah, that's true.
That's the person they met.
And our bar is, I would say, made up majority of the people that come to our bar are regulars that come frequent here 2, 3, 4 times a week.
That's great.
And it just creates an atmosphere of a cheers, where we've got a Norm on one end and we've got a Carla running around as well.
Yeah. I used to work at this bar and we had a trivia machine on it, and you could tell that it was like a regulars bar because you knew every single name on the high
trivia
machine. They were all sitting at the bar mocking you while you tried to beat their high scores.
Well, I feel one of the best part about our regulars too is that you see it all the time. They end up talking to each other and making friends with each other. So I think that's a really good sign of a good bar when your regulars all kind of come together and make friends.
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about actually this fantastic drink that you made.
All right.
So it's a Moscow Mule with a twist. It's absolutely delicious. Why don't you walk through the recipe?
So this is called our Colorado Mule, and you can only find it here at Racine's. So what we use local Vodka Co., and it's a twist on Colorado vodka.
Okay.
So we use that. We use local ginger shrub, which is kind of a fermented ginger syrup that we add to the drink with some fresh lime, simple syrup, and soda water to create the fizziness of a ginger beer, all served in the copper mug. So again, twist on the Moscow Mule, but it's our own little take on it, where we're actually making our own ginger beer by putting all these ingredients together.
And it's so easy. I don't know why more people don't do it. It's literally simple syrup and some juice and fill with soda, and you've got your own soda, But it makes the drink so much better and fresher.
Yeah.
And just so much simple. I'm going to take a sip and pretend like I usually do, like I haven't been sipping it the whole time. And it is... the thing that is so good about it is that usually when I see somebody's putting a shrub ingredient in a drink, I'm like, it's going to taste like Easter eggs.
Yep.
And this doesn't, I don't even get the slightest hint of that vinegar.
Yeah, that vinegary
aftertaste
fermented
from
flavor.
It's perfectly balanced with that simple syrup.
Because by itself, it is potent.
Oh, yeah.
It is potent, and and if it's not made properly, it can definitely overpower the drink. But if it's balanced right with the simple and the soda, then it definitely comes across just right.
Yes. Oh. And yeah, it's so good. And I love the little bursts of lime. I also like the large chunks of actual lime with the meat on it that you muddled into the drink. It's fantastic.
Fresh cut daily limes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
All ingredients fresh.
And if we have a drink in our menu that has lime juice or it has lemon juice in it or orange juice, we muddle the fruit into the drink every single time.
That's great.
We don't just buy a lime juice or buy a lemon juice that we just use.
Let it sit down there 2-3 years.
But we actually like just the freshness of fresh cut limes every day that we just muddle into the drink.
And it really changes
And we leave
the drink,
them in the drink too so that you can see that it does have fresh juice in the drink.
Well, it is absolutely lovely. I'm going to enjoy drinking the rest of it. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
It was great talking to you.
Thanks for having us, for sure.
The Hardy Boys Drink Book Podcast is a part of their network. It is produced by Jack and Charles Wessow. Music is provided by Danny Overby at Round 2 Productions. Photography and graphic design are by Kristen Hallstrom. Special thanks to Josh Hartwell and to Tracy Ann Hickman and William Joseph Chapman III at Racine's. If you like the show, leave a review on iTunes. And remember to tune in next time for The Hardy Boys Drink Book, Episode 10, What Happened at Midnight, featuring Mike Marlowe.